Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Board Games Hitting My Table. This is where I talk about all of the games that I have played over the last couple of weeks. This episode covering the second half of April 2023. Now, I haven't got a terrible amount of games played, so it's been pretty slow, but I have played some crackers. Now, before I get started on the games, I want to give a shout out to the show's sponsor, KIENDA.co.uk, who are my go-to online retailer. And if you use the link in the show notes or the QR code, then you can get 5% off your first order. And let's start with probably the highlight of the pile. This is Lorenzo Il Magnifico. So I played a 3-player game of this worker placement game that I haven't played in quite some time. Actually, I've always considered this to be one of my favourite games of all time, and it is still very much holding its own. So I actually did play with the expansion, the Houses of the Renaissance, something like that, where it introduces character powers that you can use through the whole game. But I love this mechanism where actually during the setup of the game, you auction for the characters that you want to play or the house that you want to represent, which will give you a unique ability. But what you're auctioning with is actually the amount of starting resources that you have. So you're not actually spending anything, you're just saying that you'll start with fewer resources in order to have this certain power. Now, I ended up getting a power that allowed me to share a column with somebody else without having to pay, hoping that would be cost efficient. One of my opponents managed to get a power that benefited them from going across the church track, which actually helped them massively, because once they got a certain checkpoint, they managed to almost copy my character and could use it anyway. So not only did they get a whole bunch of resources through their ability, but they also managed to copycat my ability as well. And my other opponent had quite a cool power where whenever they spent wood or stone, they would stockpile it on their house card, and then whenever they took one of the bonus actions, they could take all of those resources back to be spent again, making them a lot more efficient when it came to gathering resources. But I love the engine building in this game. I love the different routes you can take, and we all did take a very different approach. You know, for example, one of my opponents did really focus on that church track because that's what their power kind of went hand in hand with. I managed to build up my green engine quite a lot. One of my other opponents managed to build up their yellow engine quite a lot, and then we all ended up the game within just a few points of each other. So yeah, very much enjoyed everything that this game had to offer. Always, everything's up for grabs at all times, and you want to do everything, but you certainly cannot do that. Now, the rolling of the dice is a huge factor in this game because that determines the strength of all the players' workers of those matching colours, and we had quite a weird spread. So generally we'd have a couple of low rolls and then one high roll, meaning that one strong worker, you had to utilise it to its maximum benefit, really. But what a fantastic game. You know, I'm kind of visiting all my old favourites. Well, I'm trying to do so. Some of them I'm getting a stark reminder as to why I love them so much. Some of them have fallen a little bit, but Lorenzo is certainly not one of those ones that have fallen, and just a joy to get this one back onto the table. Moving on to a smaller one now, we managed to play a 3-player game of Splitto. This one is a little drafting style game, which is very abstract. You're just taking cards which either have like the different suits and numbers on them, or you'll have a corresponding scoring card. And then you have this kind of between two city style scoring, where your score is between you and each of your neighbours, and then they're going to multiply with each other. So you do need to try to keep those powers or those piles as balanced as best as possible. So that was a nice one. I'm not sure if it's going to be a keeper much longer, because I think this is going to really peak at those higher player counts, when generally I play at 3 players, maybe 4 players at a stretch. If I'm going to have that player count, I'm probably going to play a more solid filler game. But this is still better than average one. I put it around 6 out of 10, but I'm not quite sure how often I'll lean towards this one over so many other options. I played a 3-player game of Rome in a day. One of my favourite fillers from last year. A very chilled out style game with the I split and you choose mechanism, with a bit of very simple tile placement. We tried to game this as much as we could, and I think we had a really solid and tight game there, trying to again squeeze every every tile to its maximum efficiency we could. But yeah, it's a very light game. You kind of just have to see what you, or work with what you've got really. And yeah, this is the nice one. So that is Rome in a Day. I've played quite a bit more of Far Away. So this one did really well on my my most recent ranking video. I think it was in the top few. And this is kind of a newish filler game that's getting a bit of buzz at the moment. It has this cool system where you are building up this tableau of cards from left to right, but then you score them, triggering them from right to left, meaning that you're kind of committing to your goals early with the hope of aiming them as the game goes on with only 8 cards. So it's a very tight game with fairly low margins of error. Now, again, I did give this one a recommendation in that most recent ranking video. I'm not sure if it's slightly fallen below that now. Not because I don't like anything mechanically. I think it's mechanically very well done, very smooth, simple rule sets with some good choices. But I feel like sometimes getting this scoring out of this game or getting any points is like getting blood out of a stone. So I think it might be a little bit too restrictive. And, you know, when you are coming to the end and you're triggering all your cards, there might not be that many that actually do trigger off and score you points. And there's a lot of luck factor when it comes to these bonus cards as well, which can make or break your scoring tableau. So, yeah, you know, I like everything mechanically about this, but it does have quite a few pitfalls that are starting to nag on me. So that is Far Away. One game that's certainly not nagging on me is I played another 2-player game of Veil of Eternity. I introduced this to somebody who hadn't played it before, who went into the game with fairly high expectations after hearing some good things about it, and we had a cracking game. You know, this is such a brilliant little engine building game that just uses cards. I love the way that all the cards kind of synergize with each other. Again, we went very different routes here. I managed to pull off quite a nice combo that managed to pull me a bit ahead that was quite difficult for my opponent to make ground on. And that is through the use of this. I played quite a powerful card that managed to score me points for all the different suits of cards I had in front of me. And then I managed to have a Dragon's Egg, which allows you to play one of the higher cards for very cheaply. And then I managed to bring that card back out of my tableau to score those points again. So yeah, that was very, very beneficial, and that was kind of the turning point in the game, I suppose. But again, mechanically, I could not like this game more. I'm kind of frothing at the mouth with the idea that there could be more cards coming out for this one. I really hope there is. Not like there's not enough in the game itself, because you know, even though there are, I don't know, maybe 80 cards or so in the game, there go 70 cards in the game, you don't even see them all because, number one, you don't go through the whole deck, and number two, you need to discard cards in order to pay for other cards, so you cannot do everything even though you really want to. But yeah, love this one. Definitely going to be a top contender to be my game of the year, for my definitive top 10 for 2023. So that is The Veil of Eternity. I managed to play a 2-player game, of course. This is a 2-player only game of Kahuna. So Kahuna is a game I recently reacquired into my collection after not having it for quite some time, but I just had that itch to get it back because I felt like, you know, there's something I needed to, or more that I needed to explore with this one. And I'm really glad I did get this one back because the most recent games that I've had, I've really enjoyed. And this one that I played in, it was only yesterday actually, of Kahuna. It was the best game of Kahuna I've ever had. It was so close. You know, I had an opponent of equal kind of skill level, and it was a real back and forth. I managed to squeeze the points out of the first 2 rounds of the game, which put me 3 points ahead. And then that last round, my opponent really did start pushing back, and they managed to make up 2 more points. So I ended up just winning with 1 point above my opponent in the end. So yeah, very much nose to nose to the finish line. And it kind of became a game of blocking my opponent to try and restrict them from taking one more island on this brilliant little abstract style game with some hand management. It really does get very cerebral if you get into a competitive mindset with this one, but it is a brilliantly designed game that is growing on me. And you know, for saying that a game that's I think over 20 years old now is growing on me goes to show of its quality. And you know, maybe I wish I had this one or kept to this one and when I originally acquired it many years ago, but still right now it's very much dug its claws into my collection, and I'm loving it. So that is Kahuna. On to the Euro games again now. So we played a 3-player game of Hansa Teutonica, and it was the first time I tried a map that wasn't the one from the base game. So the big box comes with 2 other maps, one of which is the England one, which was a bit more fiddly and we didn't really manage to wrap our heads around the rules for that one. So we played the other expansion map, which was brilliant. So I love this map, where you have to take these kind of different sea routes in order to get presence in kind of the hot spots where you get the powers. So it was a bit harder work to get to those places because you needed merchants to actually complete those particular routes. And of course, merchants have lots of other routes, other powers and uses as well, because you want to get those extra bonus points from the other segments on the board and use them as blockers, etc. But this was a real back and forth, again, very tight until the end. And I just love the way this game works. It is so well executed. And to be honest, I can't find a single thing that I don't like about this game. I think it is nigh on perfect and an evergreen for sure. So yeah, love that new map. And still, I need to kind of work out how to use that England map because there's a bit more going on, but it does sound quite interesting. So if you've played a lot of Hansa Teutonica, please let me know how that England map works for you. And the only game that I haven't got in my collection that I've played is that we played a 3-player game of Boru, a kind of trick-taking area control style game that I do have mixed thoughts on. So I really do enjoy the card play of this one, where if you win tricks with the higher amounts, which is more probable to happen, then you sometimes have to pay a fee in order to spread your influence on the board. But if you win the tricks with lower valued cards, then you actually get some bonuses as well, such as doing these, like going up tracks and things. Now, my only issue with the game is that I think the actual mini games, because each card suit has a kind of a side mechanism attached to it, I think they're all very tacked on and aren't very fun, to be honest, whereas the actual card play and the area control is really well done. So I kind of would like a version 2 of this one to see those things ironed out and to see it be a more cohesive game. I think I'm maybe in the minority because this is quite a well-received game, but I find those side mechanisms a little bit bland, to be honest. But still, the game all in all is pretty decent, and I can certainly see why people like this one. And I think I managed to just squeeze a victory by claiming the little sidetrack with the marriages right at the end, which managed to get me some extra presence on the board and swing it in my favour. But that's it. That's all of the games that I have played. Again, not too many, but I have played some great ones. Again, big standouts: Hansa Teutonica, Kahuna, or all of them really, Veil of Eternity, and of course Lorenzo Il Magnifico. Souring a little bit on Far Away. Now, don't want to sound overly negative because it's still a really good game, but maybe not as, for me, as I initially thought it was. But hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Please be sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel and check out my other content too. And for everybody else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye-bye.